Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get to the first question. Hi Jason, your opinion on Eric Helms' recommendation for progression on big compounds for intermediate lifters, i.e. wave loading periodization. Looks fun, so I am thinking about giving it a go as a next step from linear progression. I didn't know Eric was necessarily promoting that. I know Eric, I think at one time was promoting DUP, and I guess he's just kind of renaming it wave loading. I don't know. For intermediates, I don't necessarily think this is the ideal way to train. I think intermediates probably are still going to do better off on some sort of slow linear progression, sometimes including lighter days. The Texas method's a perfect example, though the volume is a bit low. Or doing some sort of block periodization. I don't think concurrent style training and wave loading for an off-season intermediate lifter is really ideal. You guys got to remember, Eric is a very, very advanced natty lifter, and he might be doing it saying, hey, this seems to be working for me, but also he's also very, very advanced. I don't know that I personally would promote this style of training. I think it's an unnecessary, unbeneficial level of complexity, and I think the reason this sort of thing appeals to a lot of people is because there's complexity, so therefore it seems to them like there might be some magic to it, but there really isn't. And I think ultimately it seems attractive to people due to basically exercise and training ADHD, which I did a video on the other day of other ways to deal with that, more effective ways. I personally, I don't know that I would really get into this. And yeah, a lot of it comes from a lot of the original West Side templates of their things with wave loading, the speed work on concurrent style periodization. I'm pretty sure that's where Eric's drawing it from. But like I've said before, I think that training style is generally going to be better for more in-season athletes, concurrent style training. I'm not a big fan of any sort of concurrent style training, including with wave loading, for people who are trying to make their fastest gains in some sort of off-season. I just don't think it's the way to go. But you know, that's just my opinion. Give it a try. If it sounds appealing to you and you want to try it, then give it a try for the next year and see how it goes. All right, next question. According to the strength chart, I've noticed that my strength gains have not been anywhere near optimal. I've been lifting for a solid year, consistently 5x5 barbell movements 3 times a week. I'm 156 pounds at 5'11", and after a year and a half of training, I can only squat 125 pounds and overhead press 45 pounds. I've plateaued on these lifts for almost half a year. Do I have to eat more food and add more sets reps? I've seen how fast others progress in the gyms, and it's kind of discouraging to see my strength hasn't gone up. All right, let's go back to the common problems anyone has on a novice program. If you're overweight, you don't have to gain weight. You are 5'11", 156 pounds. That's amazingly small. That's amazingly small for someone who lifts. If you're 156 pounds and you have been weightlifting for a year, you better not be taller than about 5'7". All right. You by now 156. You should be at least 175. At least 175 at 5'11". At this point in your training. Your problem is you are not eating enough. You are absolutely not eating enough. You probably made a little bit of gain starting out, then everything stopped because you undereat. You're clearly an undereater. Now you're going to say, well, I don't like to eat. Yes, we already know you don't like to eat. There's no need to tell anybody that. You're 5'11", 156, and you lift. Okay, you don't like to eat. You need to learn how to eat. You need to learn to like food. Because that's what's holding you back. And had you been eating enough food to consistently gain for that year 1.5 pounds a week, 1.5 pounds a week, you would probably be up at least 18 pounds in that 12 months, and you would probably be squatting 315, and you'd probably be benching 225. All right, you simply have failed to eat enough to gain weight, and that is the only solution. You don't need to change your training. You need to change your diet. You're simply not getting enough food, and you're not getting enough carbs in. You're not getting in enough protein. You need to start hammering the food down. Then you need to start putting on weight. The scale needs to be going up every week for you for a little while. When you do that, your lifts will start going up. It's pretty straightforward. All right, next question. Hey, Jason. I love squats and have been squatting for years, but even with perfect form, with coaches looking at my form, me videoing myself and watching my form, it still hurts my knees. I work 8 to 10 hour days on full labor as a painter and drywaller. I am constantly up and down ladders, benches, stairs, scaffolds, and I think this might be the culprit for my hurting, aching knees. But it doesn't hurt much at all when I deadlift or push press. My question is, if I only push press, deadlift, and power clean for legs and not squat, can I still be a strong, fully developed mother fracker? You know what? Look at what happened to me, brother. I quit squatting for a year and a half and I did deadlifts and push presses. My quad shrank and my squat strength isn't there. I'm having to rebuild my squat strength. Working all the way down in the low 300s for work sets. All right, it doesn't work. You will not maintain all the strength that you want by doing this. You'll have good strength, but you won't be completely well developed. Your thigh strength is going to lack. Your quads are going to lack. That's just the reality of it. You need to accept that. Now, the reason it's probably hurting your knees is all that time up and down the ladders. That's putting stress on your knees. That's putting stress on your knees. And it's coming out during the squats. But I can assure you it is the inflammation from doing all of that. What I'm going to recommend is just taking better care of yourself. Start soaking in hot Epsom baths, hot baths and things after work so that you heal all of it up. Because if you have a decently strong squat and deadlift, your technique is good on your squats, your knees shouldn't be hurting. Your work itself is causing inflammation. You're going to need to get that inflammation under control. You're going to probably just need to get better rest. Again, active recovery, hot baths, Epsom salt baths, things like that. I'm going to recommend a set of squat shoes. That's going to be the other thing I might recommend. You might need to change to squat shoes or even consider a different style of squatting. Maybe you're a high bar squatter. You might want to consider going to low bar squats. You might want to avoid front squats. Might want to avoid safety bar squats because of, again, potential slight extra amounts of stress on your knees when you have a job that's very demanding on your knees. I would give those things a try before I quit squatting completely. Just my advice. And just remember, you have a job that itself is very, very taxing on your knees. And so it is coming out in the squats, which means there's an overall recovery issue. And again, some little things you could do to just adjust the stress on your knees and the patellar tendons and everything during your actual squats. All right, next question. Hey, Jason. I finally got my brother into lifting who never really did much exercise and wanted to put him on your novice program, but his mobility is so bad he can't even reach parallel on squat without back rolling. Can't get to proper standing position on the deadlift, and even his row form with an empty bar looks horrible. Should I have him do some alternative exercises until he can get mobility to do the basics, or should I just work only on the mobility? No, you need to fix his mobility. Fix his mobility. You know what I'm going to recommend? Normally I say rack pulls are stupid. Well, in this case, as a corrective exercise for someone who's not mobile, rack pulls to where you gradually reduce the weight, or do block pulls to where they pull from a block and you cut it lower and lower and lower each week. And you can do that by alternating plates that you stack them on, standing people on plates so that you every single week you change the depth of which he has to pull from by an inch or two on a weekly basis until you get his deadlift mobility down. You need to have him squat to boxes with his body weight and sit back on boxes, practice third world squats, things like that, until you get his mobility to where he can do these things. And what I'm going to say, yeah, he can't do regular training yet. He's not a functional, intact, healthy male. Major mobility issues. You need to fix those things. And then once you get him squatting to boxes, start messing with things like goblet squats. You need to get him to where he can squat and deadlift through normal ranges of motion, build up his core. Then, after probably about a month of that, you will have him mobile enough to throw him into the program. But that's what he's going to have to do because he can't do these exercises right now. All right, next question. Coach, you have done a great job on your cut, and I know that you're recomping now at 220. Just to satisfy my own curiosity, how is your current body fat percentage compared to when you weighed 218 at your powerlifting meet back in 2014? It seems as though your strength levels are very close to what they were back then, so wondering if your lean body mass is close as well. Thanks. My overhead press is stronger, my deadlift's about the same. My squat and bench are lower. I do not have as much muscle mass, but what you need to remember is that I didn't walk around at 218. I did a water cut to make 218. So truth be told, I feel like I'm a little bit leaner now, probably a few pounds less body fat. But I probably also have 7, 8, 9 pounds less muscle mass. I do have less muscle mass, particularly like in my thighs. I think my thighs and I think my pecs actually have less muscle. My back and posterior chain and all of that is about equal. But again, I think mainly pectoral and quad mass are definitely a bit lower. And I think my overall muscle is definitely a few pounds lighter, although I am slightly leaner. You got to remember, I was walking around at like 232 2 weeks before that meet. And I cut water to get down to that. I might have even been 235 now that I think about it. So yeah, I do have a little less muscle mass, and I am not at the strength levels. On 2 out of my 3 competitive lifts right now, I am actually weaker. And I'll get that back. I will get back to and surpass where those lifts were with time, but it is going to take me time to do so. And it's going to take me time to regain that muscle mass, and I'm going to need to do so at a lighter body weight just by getting leaner over time also. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 3.